Hello and welcome to Sci-Fi Author Chat. Today I'm delighted to bring you Paul Cornell, writer of Doctor Who and comics and all sorts of other fabulous things, including a new release, Rosebud, that we will talk about. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for coming. So I'm going to read a bit from your bio on your website, and then we will dig into this freewheeling conversation. Paul Cornell is a writer of science fiction and fantasy in prose, comics, and TV. One of only 2 people to be Hugo Award nominated for all 3 media. He's written Doctor Who for the BBC, Action Comics for DC, and Wolverine for Marvel. He's won the BSFA Award for his short fiction and an Eagle Award for his comics, and shares in a Writers Guild Award for his television. Fantastic. So Paul, I have to dig in as a Whovian to Doctor Who pretty quickly here, because that's, an amazing pedigree to have. And I would love to know about your history with Doctor Who and what point of your life did you decide you wanted to write for Doctor Who?
Oh my goodness. Well, it was sort of the first thing I ever wrote for, in effect. I've been writing it professionally for over 33 years. I stopped a little while back, so maybe about 30. But when I was a child, I used to write very short, to the point fiction essays at school, and I was terribly bullied at school, and I suddenly exploded and wrote an enormous story which basically told the truth about everything that was happening to me, but framed in fantasy terms.
Wow.
And my teacher loved it, and I thought, oh, there's something here. I've got an audience for this. And that became me writing initially Doctor Who fan fiction at the time of Peter Davison, which I started sending to fanzines, and fanzines started accepting it. And I got my first ever feedback via the very slow internet of fanzine letters pages. And some of those stories formed my pitch to the New Adventures, when Peter Darwell Evans, the editor, put ads in Doctor Who magazine and in fanzines saying, we're seeking this new breed of fan fiction writer, of which I was part of the whole scene. And so my fan fiction became a Doctor Who novel. One of my Doctor Who novels, Human Nature, became Doctor Who on television. And so there's that ladder, straight from my childhood first writing experience to Doctor Who on television. And that's kind of really important to me. It's sort of the central thread of my career. And that's sort of what I keep emotionally referring back to. I think that that feeling I have of, I sometimes say it out loud, the audience will save me. If I go back to the prose, I can hide in it and dig in, and it's healing, and showing it to people and them liking it, that's good stuff. That's really good stuff. So yes, that's my origin story, who I am and how I came to be.
I love the fact that you had a teacher who encouraged you and helped you have that springboard. Like that was your first believer was a teacher. I love that a lot.
Mrs. Skipper.
What was her name?
Mrs. Skipper.
Mrs. Skipper. Well, thank you, Mrs. Skipper, because without Mrs. Skipper, we wouldn't have perhaps this catapulting into the stars. That's fantastic. And I can identify with having a teacher who believed in me and helped me take that path that I might not have otherwise. It makes all the difference.
And we always remember their names.
Yes, we do. Mrs. Phillips was mine. So yeah. Well, that's fantastic. So before Doctor Who, before you started writing any fan fiction, did you write anything else? Were you writing like comics or anything?
No.
Comics writing.
Well, yeah, it wasn't. Doctor Who was the first fan fiction, but I swiftly started writing and drawing my own comics because in Biro, because I was a Marvel fan too. And the X-Men under Claremont got me through a lot of those school days also. Yes. I remember talking about the death of Phoenix to my desk mate, who was the only other geek within 100 miles. And so I was very swiftly writing and drawing comics, and that was another big quest of mine. It took many years to trying to, again, Doctor Who unlocked it for me. I got to know John Freeman, who was the editor of Doctor Who magazine, and we became buddies. We became drinking buddies, and this was many years later. And he, that would be bad. he,
Your age up. No.
And he recognised my desire to write for the Doctor Who magazine comic strip. So
Right.
that was my first comic. And it took me ages to break into American comics. I remember me and the comicer Rob Williams pursuing a DC Comics editor, dear old Bob Schreck, around a convention, desperately trying to talk to him so we might try and throw some work at him. But anyway, finally I got into American comics because, there'd been a bit of Doctor Who, quite successful at DWM, and then a bit of 2000 AD Monthly off the back of that, but then not much else. And I got into American comics because Mark Miller, the American comics writer, saw my Doctor Who episode and invited me to send something to Mark.
Oh, that sounds
I always say to young writers, that's all you've got to do.
Yeah.
It's an easy routine.
Oh man, that's amazing. I love it.
Well, I always say that you've got to we're all sliding down the cliff face, and you've just got to be ready with your fingers when that ledge appears.
Right. Yeah. Hang on. Yeah. Well, that's fantastic. And so, and now, you've written a lot of comics, and you've got something else coming along. I wondered if you'd like to talk about that you just announced on your blog.
Oh, well, I can't talk about it. I mean, that's the thing. I've got this year three creator-owned comics that haven't been announced yet, plus the graphic novel Three Little Wishes from Legendary, plus going back to Marvel for Wildcards.
That's what I was talking about. That's incredible.
It's great, isn't it? And I've been really pushing hard on the comic stuff lately, and it seems to be working out well, particularly in the creator-owned terms. I think we're sort of, to everyone's surprise, comics didn't go away during the lockdown. They actually sort of perked up, right. And so the market's kind of for short-run creator-owned is perhaps bigger than it's ever been. Yeah. So it's an exciting time again. I seem to be amongst industries that are forever reinventing themselves and starting over, which is in some ways a good feeling. In other ways, what's the next thing? Because I'm always after the next thing.
Right.
I'm very, very, very wary of nostalgia, which is an odd thing for a Doctor Who fan. And I feel it in myself. I feel that gravitational pull, but I sort of think, well, when I'm 80, I'll just give in. I'll prepare things for when I give in.
Right.
Behind me, you can barely glimpse. There's an Airfix catalogue, a plastic model catalogue from my youth. Some of my metal Space 1999 toys from my youth.
Oh my God! Awesome.
And various other icons of back in the day.
Right.
But I feel that I'm not going to truly plunge into that. I am not going to allow myself the horrible decadence of that awful phrase, they don't make them like that anymore.
Oh, right.
Until I'm really old. Because that way lies death. So I'm always interested in what the next thing is and what the young people are doing. Dianne, what are the young people doing? You can tell me.
If I were young, I would tell you. But...
You're younger than I am. It's all my own hair, You can't see the joy.
I mean, I have to ask, Do you have
Well,
a favorite
it's
doctor?
real. It
No,
really
not
is real.
there. Okay. Do you have a favorite doctor? Because I have to ask
It's a
that.
complicated question,
Oh,
as
yes,
you
it is.
know. In some ways, Davison. In some ways, Sylvester McCoy, who was very important to me, the Seventh Doctor, when I was younger. That felt like proper Doctor Who coming back. And in some ways, Capaldi, because, yeah, well, I have great memories of my 50th birthday party with watching Capaldi's Fidali, which had got out that night with Stephen Shapansky and Eric Renside and Liz Miles. And that was after the 50th birthday, but that wasn't the birthday party. I mean, you know, I'd done something a bit bigger. But anyway, he just sort of resonated with me as an older guy. And I was also delighted when Jodie came along. And you know, about damn time, and you know, so I think they all sort of make me feel they're my doctor while they're here, which is the really nice feeling. So you know, but yeah, there are flavors of this. Who's your favorite doctor?
Capaldi.
Yeah.
You know, and it's, if I try to think of why, there's a million reasons why, you know, and as you said, there's something to love about each doctor, you know. I love Jodie, you know, I think she's fantastic. But with him, something clicked with me. He could reach a place that I felt that nobody else was going. And I just was swept into it, you know, and I believed this person was the doctor completely, you know.
I like the fact that he had a proper character arc.
He did.
And I really loved his first season because it was so brave.
He was.
And felt so different. And the same production team, completely different feeling. How often does that happen?
Impressive, right?
Yeah.
You know, just to completely switch. And you've got to give him so much credit. I mean, he was a fan anyway, right? So, and I think that showed too, you know.
In the mid 70s, as you probably know, he tried to take over the Doctor Who Appreciation Society.
Yeah, he's a treasure. I got to see him live in San Diego at a show, and he was just every bit as charming and delightful as we could ever have imagined. So kudos to him. But let's get back to you, because I want to talk about something called Rosebud.
Oh, I love it. I'm loving the reactions.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm reading it now, and I was laughing so hard last night. And that's why I put on Twitter this book is bat poop cuckoo bananas with extra nuts, and I love it. And that is exactly how I feel. And I haven't felt like this reading something since probably Douglas Adams. Of course, that comparison is going to come up, but this is special, and it's spicy. You know, and I really like that, because I feel like I needed that. I feel like we all need some ridiculous spice right now. Let's not go too hard and serious. Let's have some fun. And this is so much fun. So thank you for writing it. And
I like to think that there's something serious underneath, and beware the Peter Watts quote on the front, which sort of indicates what you're going to get.
Yeah, and knowing Peter, it's going to be something.
But yeah, it's my attempt to sort of write to move on with my SF prose. I wanted to do a proper spaceship book. Because one day, I hope that would be a book that would have a spaceship on the cover, but no such luck this time, but maybe next time. And I wanted to do a proper hard SF, because there's some hard SF stuff in there, but gonzo SF as well, stuff that's characterful and funny and actually angry. And angry and funny are often close together, and that is angry and funny.
Picking up on that very quickly.
And but yes, it's out in April. I'm delighted with the reaction thus far. We have just got, I don't think I can say who it's from, but we've just got the most amazing author quote in today. The one I was really after. And so, I mean, no, Peter Watts is great, and it's great to have him on the front, but yeah, nice. So yeah, so all in all, my return to SF has been a relief, because I wanted to prove I could do it, and it's something I'm going to keep pursuing. I'm in the middle of I'm 40,000 words into an SF novel now. And that's the background thing, the thing I do while nothing else is happening. And when all my plates are spinning.
A familiar feeling. And,
Thank you so much.
I understand very much, especially because you have a lot of plates spinning and you're a parent. So, and inevitably people will ask, and I've been asked a lot, but, how do you carve out the time to write a novel in addition to everything else?
It's really tough. And I'm really glad you're asking a father this, because I think mothers get asked this a lot, and I don't think fathers get asked this enough. And I think that's a misogynist thing, that there's still somehow that assumption that fathers aren't doing the share of the childcare.
Definitely are.
Yeah. Well, we're doing it half and half, and yeah. And with a wonderful nanny. But no, my son is autistic, and which has taught me an awful lot about everything in the world. Basically, he's opened up so much to me, and he's 9 years old now. And finding the time, he's at school, so basically I get to work during his school day, and then we divide the rest. And I have Sunday morning entirely, most of Sunday, in fact, entirely with him. And that's a really nice feeling that we do the same thing, almost exactly the same thing every Sunday morning in the same order. And that I find that relaxing too, because those autistic genes came from somewhere. And so yes, it's obviously the central thing of one's life. And one can, the new perspective it gives one, it's to some extent being 9 again, only his 9 is a lot better than my 9 was, I hope. And anyway, yes, that.
Fantastic. I call it a constant astonishment. They constantly astonish me. And I have 2 boys, and now they're 15 and 13, and it just, the time goes so fast. And I think having that pocket of time that you can set aside for your child is so crucial. And the routine is comforting, no matter what that routine is. So kudos to you. You're doing the thing. So that's great.
Yeah. One wants a busy life. Nobody has lives like ours, as William Hartnell so nearly said. And it's, us as writers, and we're so fortunate to have them. And every now and then at a convention, I would just think, how fortunate are we all to do this?
Yes.
I do try, when my various crushing neuroses aren't crushing me, to experience a sense of delight as we go. But
good practice to have. And their children teach us anew how to appreciate it and when to be grateful for it. So that's great.
Oh yes.
Would you say? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
He's loving the original Muppet Show.
Oh my gosh, that's the most perfect thing to watch with your child.
Oh, so many jokes on so many levels.
So many, and a lot of them flew over my head as a kid that I now get. And I'm like, this was actually extremely brilliant writing.
The master of near miss comedy, Farsi man.
Oh, such good stuff.
Yeah.
So, getting back, can you say anything about this novel that you are in? Can you say when it's coming out? Is it Sci-Fi? Is it?
Haven't even tried to sell it. It's just for me right now. It's a fun space opera adventure with thriller aspects, and I hope the shape of it will again amount to something a bit more. But right. I'm hoping it's a thrill ride, and there's lots of action, which is kind of new for me. That's a new thing. So action motivated in science fiction, SF-ness,
Yeah.
Action coming out of the nature of the environment we are in. That's difficult, and that feels crunchy and a good thing to try.
Is there anything in particular that inspired that action sci-fi for you? Was there any sort of flavor that you sort of really liked and wanted to capture?
Ian Fleming's James Bond. I did some short stories in this mode a while back, but the hero of those was called Hamilton, and they became known as the Hamilton stories. And of course, that's really hard to Google now. So I've left him behind, trying that voice somewhere else and with a different world. And yeah, and as always, I find Fleming's voice quite satisfying to be in conversation with. I'm not trying a pastiche. It's not a pastiche. I'm just trying to bounce off it.
Outstanding. That sounds like a lot of fun to write. I'm intrigued. That's great.
I got to write an actual end of chapter Bon mot the other day. A closing line before the door slams at the start of the Goldfinger pre-title sequence line. So I'm quite pleased with that.
Outstanding. You know, in the second you said, you know, Bond, I'm thinking of, you know, a winterscape instantly, because I can't help but go there. So like,
there's a lot of snow in James Bond. There really is.
Like a requirement or something. We must have a scene with snow. So in terms of, you've done so many things that are related to your dreams and the things that you love. And I think that is a wonderful and aspirational aspect to your career. And gosh, you know, I'm kind of in awe of that. But I also think, you know, you're not done yet and you're still going. And so is there,
I would like to underline that. Yes.
Is there another dream out there that you've got your sights on that you want to talk about?
There's loads. Oh, there's loads. I would love to write a John Steed and Emma Peel comic for any comics company that wants to get that license for me. I know exactly what I do.
That would be amazing.
And I've been saying that out loud for many years and it hasn't happened yet. The big thing is writing an actual Bond novel, but I'm a long, long way from that. That I'm going to need to take several immense career changes before that could happen. You know, a movie, that would be nice.
Yes.
I would like to be in an American writer's room. I've written for American television once, and I would like to spend a proper season doing the hard yards in a writer's room. That would be, I know so many people who've done it, and it's something I'd really like to experience. I think that's about it.
I think we'd be lucky to have you in a writer's room here.
Well, you say that.
I hope that happens.
I'd be the one going, where is everything? What does everything do?
Well, I mean, you've been here, you know, you were here recently for Galley One, and that's a regular thing for you during normal, non-awful times. And so how long have you been coming to Galley One? It seems like it's a staple for you.
Yeah, my first was their 9th event, and we're at something like 20, we're at 33 next year.
Oh, really?
And I took a break after I'd written the TV show because my first couple of years after that was so intense.
I bet.
But when I came back after that, I became part of the furniture, and now I run game shows and do infrastructure and do panels, and I'm not just that guy who's talking about 2-3 episodes 10 years ago, you know. So a lot more than nearly 20 years now, and that really helps. The fact that, you know, I'm the guy who runs the game shows.
That's so fun. I mean, you're so interactive. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, and it gives me something to do and something new to do, which is really important for me. And well, I love that convention. That and San Diego and Thought Bubble are kind of the 3 major pillars of my year. I don't know if I'll do San Diego this year because it still feels the idea of 100,000 people feels a bit much. But Thought Bubble is a British comics convention, which I adore. So, you know, it's important, I think, to celebrate these things. They give sort of a lovely shape to the year. And getting back to Gallifrey after the pandemic, it was a huge release for so many of us. You got to experience a little bit of it, just seeing Joe Martin just there across the bar.
It was amazing. Yeah. Just, I mean, what I really loved about it, and, you know, I hope to go eventually and do a proper Galley One session. So what I loved about it is the inclusiveness. And I think that's Doctor Who to me, is that sense of community and inclusiveness. And that's one reason I really love Doctor Who and the Doctor Who fandom, and have been part of it, you know, for a reasonable number of years. So it's just a delight that you're out there doing that. And because everybody was just happy. That's what I noticed and what I picked up on immediately. Everybody's having a great time. And not every convention is like that. Some of it is a little more stressful, and this was just plain fun.
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't tend to go to the stressful ones, but yes, I know they're out there. Yeah. And I mean, there are certain shows which I really enjoy watching as a viewer. I mean, Foundation is something I'm enormous. Love it. But I don't want to join the fandom.
Yeah.
Because I think that might spoil it. You know, so there are conventions which I sort of have to take a deep breath. I'm not going to name names, but that I go to sometimes, and sometimes not. But the ones that one can just be oneself at. Yes. But in Gallifrey, I've spent so many years just lying in against a wall in a corridor talking about Doctor Who at 3 a.m. And that's what you're after in life.
Right. That is life goals right there.
Yeah.
For real. I come as a person who has a TARDIS dress, so I get it, you know.
Yeah.
Well, I always ask a couple of silly questions and then a couple of serious ones. And so current terms of silly, let's start with, do you have like, when you're writing, when you're just like having your writing session, do you have like a favorite snack or a favorite drink? Because I do, and I'm always curious if anybody else does.
I better not keep snacks anywhere near me during this, because I would just eat them without paying any attention.
Never do that.
I just have a can of whatever's handy beside me. Actually, I'm not very particular about. I was going to say about what goes into my body during a writing session, but no, that's, no. So no, I don't. What's yours?
Dark chocolate.
Oh.
I have to have it in this little drawer right here. And if it isn't there, there's a problem. So, you know, but I also have to be careful about how many of the dark chocolates I have. So it's a constant battle.
I do have a sort of related thing, which I think that in my case, and I have a highfalutin theory about this, I get good ideas when I'm brushing my teeth. I've never gone quite so far as to go, oh, I better go and brush my teeth again now. But I wonder if it's because we have a certain number of neurons literally in our gut, that gut feeling is a real thing, and that maybe language evolved while we were sitting around the fire chewing food, and that maybe the act of stimulating these kind of leads to stomach neuron. I don't know, but that, and there's got to be some reason why cleaning my teeth is is useful.
You did it. Very heavy.
Where do you get your ideas from? Dental health. That's basically it.
My dentists would absolutely be delighted by that. I'll have to tell them the story.
Yes.
So yeah, and I don't really. I might have tea, but most of the time I just have water. Tea or coffee, but usually water. So that's it. That's why, like when I was interviewing Peter Watts, gets up, gets the beer, and it's all good. So I just love asking that question. And another question I have, which is kind of ridiculous because I like ridiculous things. This is a two-pronged question. The first part of it is, what's the one thing that would tip people off to your being human? Let's say a reverse Voight-Kampff. Like, how do people know you're human? And then how would people suspect that you might be a replicant or not human?
Oh, that's really good. Okay, I think that I have some very human weaknesses in terms of the things I really enjoy. I mean, I think that they should take my pulse while I'm halfway through a day of cricket at the ground. And I swear my brain enters a state where the one side of my brain, not that brains actually have two sides in these terms, but one side of my brain, the one that does the numbers, is being deeply entertained by the possibility of records and how many runs and the continuing parade of fascinating numbers that a game of cricket generates. And the other side of my brain is at the same time utterly stimulated emotionally by the characters of the players that you get to know really well and the emotional stakes. And these two sort of come together to put me in a sort of blissful yogic state, which I do not achieve it any other way. So I think that in order to prove I was human, you could hook me up to that. And why might they suspect I wasn't? I can on occasion, when pushed, display a certain lack of emotional effect. I recall perhaps during my times which were darkest, I was living in quite some poverty. And an important parcel came through, and I was pretty sure the guy on the floor below, who I think was a junkie, had stolen it. So I broke into his flat. I kicked down his door and went in and found my parcel and took it back. He wasn't in. And he came up a little later to ask if I'd seen anybody who kicked down his door. I said, no. But
well, the cucumber.
Yeah, because I'm not proud of that. In fact, I'm deeply ashamed of that. But I think that's a sort of replicant thing, isn't it? That I struggle very hard to never be in that place. Right. And I think maybe again, it's the fact that I've had to learn an awful lot of socialization. Myself and my wife both are aware of. I mean, I was diagnosed as autistic when I was a child, and only learned that during my mother's dementia. They simply didn't tell anybody, myself included. Yeah. And so I think I've spent a whole lifetime evolving coping strategies, and I'm so glad that people don't have to do that now. Right. In the sense that one can be more open about one's autism. I mean, right. I know one needs coping strategies. Yeah. But so I suspect a side effect of that is that in certain circumstances, I can be oddly unemotional. Wow, that was your silly question. Okay, well, let's go for the deep and serious one.
Well, I mean, the serious one is you can have some fun with if you want to, and that is, what's the worst writing advice you ever received?
Oh, write what you know. So a lot of people must say that, right?
That's a little horrifying, isn't it?
Yeah. Just never stay in your box. Never venture out of it. Yeah. And also, what if one only knows the real world and one wants to write about things that are not real?
Yeah.
I understand where it's coming from, which is that you need a sense of verisimilitude. You need to, research that thing and know it a bit. But how about write what you can find out about?
You can learn, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think that is one thing that is a personal pet peeve, is when the write what you know, because I mean, it sometimes just isn't possible for us to, you know, live in a bunker on Mars. So, you know, you got to kind of work with that.
Yeah.
And when you are writing science fiction, do you have like a set source of science, you know, people or sources that you use? Because I know what I do, and I'm curious what you do.
I have I have some set scientists that friends have recommended who've helped other friends in this regard.
Great.
And my superpower, honestly, is my address book. And yeah, I've gotten to know an awful lot of people over the years. It hasn't really done me any good career-wise, but it has made the experience between the big career beats richer, I think. And it's made certain things easier in terms of the infrastructure of that career. And it's been my privilege to know some amazing creators, and they bring with them scientists often. So that's who I tend to ask. But also particular scientists, it's gotten a lot easier these days to the internet has made research so much easier than when I was a kid. I mean, I used to have to go into public libraries and stuff, and it wasn't necessarily there what you were looking for.
Right.
But you know, so yes, that.
Great. It's nice to have that group of people as a sort of ecosystem of creativity and of brilliant minds. And I think it adds to all of our experiences a lot. So
it's where I came from again. I mean, the fact that all of us fan fiction writers competed with each other.
And sometimes competition could be good for that, you know, a bit of a whetstone to make you sharper, right?
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd like for readers to know or that you'd like to talk about?
Hammer House of Podcast. I'm the co-host of co-host of a podcast where myself and Liz Miles watch the Hammer movies in order. And we're about to have our 50th episode. So we've done an awful lot of this. And that's enjoyable. That's a sort of twice monthly nice thing I have to do. And what else am I doing? Comics, books. There's all sorts of television brewing away in the background, as always. But my rule is that television almost never happens. So
yeah. In terms of Hammer House of Podcasts, am I getting that right? So I would like to know where readers, listeners could find it.
Oh, any podcatcher. It's out there for free. For patrons, we have an extra monthly episode.
Okay.
And where we watch other companies' horror movies around the same time. And and work our way through some patron requests.
All right.
And yeah, it's good.
I need to join in on that. That sounds like so much fun. But great.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. And I know that all of your listeners and readers will be super happy to know Rosebud's coming their way and that you've got all kinds of irons in the fire, so to speak, and wonderful projects to come. So thank you again, Paul.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Thanks so much. Ad Astra.